Yeah, so I once tried to make, actually the first year after my grandmother passed away, I tried to make her bread, and I already added the butter, sorry, I added about like half a stick. So I think that's like a quarter cup of butter. And that was vegan butter. Anyway, so like the first year after my grandmother died, on the anniversary of her birth, of her death, sorry, which was 9/11/2007.
What a fun rhyme.
Right? 2 eggs beaten. I tried to make the bread, and what had happened was, when the bread came out of the oven, I could have given it to the Boston Bruins. Yeah.
Why did you choose this dish?
So I wanted to play with doing a dish that was a riff on something that my grandmother would make, if not every Sunday, 99% of the Sundays of the year. A dish she would call Maccaroni Pie. In the United States, we probably call it a baked mac or baked mac and cheese. Or I think in the South they call it baked macaroni pie in some parts.
Why was Sunday so important?
So Sundays in sort of West Indian families are days when, I think in Italian families too, like in big family cultures. Italian families, West Indian families, one I'm most familiar with, families come together. And what a better way to come together than around food. So macaroni pie was usually a staple of that day, along with rice and peas and plantains and lamb and chicken and beef and greens and passion fruit juice, a whole spread, a buffet of food around which the family would sit and eat, or just take your plate and find a corner with your cousin or by yourself. You don't like being with other people that day. Yeah, so I'm done cooking off my veggies, which in my case was kale and broccoli and mushrooms and a little bit of cauliflower. Again, don't be picky. Use what you like. At the end of the day, after it was all cooked, because the kale cooks down, and mushrooms cooked down, I have maybe a couple cups of veggies, could be a cup and a half, and I seared them off in this cast iron pan with about a tablespoon of olive oil. Use whatever oil you like or have. Love cast iron, by the way, because just about everybody in my family is anemic, and it's a great way to just get iron in your food. While your food is cooking, the iron from the cast iron will get imparted into your food. And it's just amazing for doing things like searing meats or cooking off vegetables. Like, I do everything in my cast iron. I even bake in it, so.
Why do you think food is such a great equalizer?
I think food is an equalizer. I'll say a little bit about why it can possibly not be at the end. But I think food essentially brings people together. I think it's the thing that in any situation will reduce tension. And I think sometimes it can be the great divider. For example, in the United States, we have plenty of food to feed everybody, yet we have children who go to bed hungry. I think this is how Mother would have done it. It's funny, I never spent a lot of time with her in the kitchen. I think, like most young people, I probably thought it was boring in there. Not sure why, because there's food being made. But anyway, so I just added the cheese to the warm pasta. I'm just going to incorporate that a little bit. Let's see, what kind of cheeses I had in there. Well, I had whatever was around that was left for me by my daughter. So there's cream cheese, there's goat cheese, there's some goat cheddar, and there's a little bit of the Dea, like provolone slices. I think all in all, there's probably, if I had to guess, about a cup and a half of cheese in here. And again, I'm doing this like eyeballing it because really that is how my grandmother cooked. I cannot remember her ever measuring anything, even when she made cakes, frankly. I don't know how she did it, but she never measured the flour, or the butter, or the sugar. And yet she made the best cakes and bread. Oh my God. Okay.
And is cooking to you an art or a science?
Is cooking an art or a science is a tough question, because my approach to cooking is as if it is an art, but the end result certainly comes from the science, right? Without knowing how and when to add ingredients, how and when to stir the pot, what temperature to put your oven on in order not to burn something, that's the science, right? But the kind of jazz riffing that I do in the kitchen, that's the art part.
So when you learned to cook, like as a small child, were you very precise or were you taught to cook in more of an artistic manner?
That's a good question. So I think I was taught both things, and here's why I say that. I think from watching my grandmother, I saw like an expert jazz musician. You no longer need the music, you no longer need the instrument to be perfectly in tune, yet you and your seasoned professional jazz buddies can get together on Sunday and make the most incredible music with nothing, just with your instruments, right? That's what I learned from my grandmother. And then I spent a sizable amount of time with my Aunt Vienna, who's my mom's sister. She's the closest one to her. I think Aunt Vienna is the next child that came after my mom in the lineup of kids that my grandmother had. And my Aunt Vienna was a much more precise cook. So I remember she would make these amazing, like from scratch pancakes. She'd make like her own jelly. And I remember seeing her use measuring tools in the kitchen. And I think both those things have influence me. If I'm making a wedding cake for someone, I'm likely gonna measure, right? Because I don't want to screw it up. If I'm making my own cake, probably not. The smell of that time, the smell of the cooking cornmeal pastry, the smell of the beef mixed with onions and pepper and olives and raisins on the stove, putting it in the banana leaves and steaming them on the stove top. Like, something about that time just screams Christmas to me, and the best Christmas ever. quick story. And sometimes she'd take me with her to the market when she had a million grandkids, so it was always a real struggle to figure out who would get chosen. So if you got chosen to go that day, so many times I would go with her. I remember one day in particular, she was buying avocado, what we would call in Trinidad zabuka. I think it's some derivation of French and Swahili. Anyway, so she picks up the man's zabuka and she looks at it and she said, trying to negotiate for a lower price, "This zabuka hard." The man say, "Not harder than you."